All right, so you're joining me 3/4 of the way through the squat routine for today. I'm doing front squats. The reason for that is because I want to do some pull-ups after this, and I want the bulk of the video to be about pull-ups. So I'm about to hit 100 kilos for 5. You know, I did the usual bar for 20, 40 for 20, 60 for 20, 80 for 10. Now I'm going to do 100 for 5. I'm feeling great after yesterday. Yesterday I tied my 195 kilo back squat PR. Yeah, feel great. The quads are pumped as usual straight after the workout. So let me hit this and then we'll get to pull-ups. Oh man, so that's 100 for 5. So I think it was last week, so last weekend, I introduced pull-ups into the program. I ended up doing like 80, I think it was 81 pull-ups all up. And I did kind of like a set of 1, set of 2, set of 3, set of 4, all the way up to set of 9. Now I wanted to do a set of 10, but I just couldn't. I was not strong enough. And then, you know, once you hit that, then you do a set of 8, set of 7, and you head back down. It's kind of like an interesting way of getting volume in without being too rigid. It's kind of like, it allows you to warm up, and in a way, it allows you to warm down. So you're kind of pre-exhausting yourself with the leading up sets. Kind of like the squats that I'm doing. You know, you're doing a whole bunch of warm-up sets, getting the blood in there and stuff. But the reason for introducing the pull-ups back into the program now, I used to do pull-ups quite a lot back in the day. You know, my goal was always to hit 30. The most I ever hit was like 18 or 19 or something like that, some 20. Nowhere near 30. And the way I like to do them is kind of like drop all the way down like a dead hang and go up again. The reason why I got back into the program was because my shoulder started playing up. The right shoulder, from doing the front rack position, I don't know what muscle or what tendon or whatever's flared up, but essentially like the external rotation that I would have to do to rack the bar. Like, it's not bad when I'm doing it, but as I'm kind of placing the bar back on the rack, like I need to kind of head out of it slowly. It just kind of feels like it's been overstretched. Funny sensation. It was kind of bothering me with the bench press as well. So for me, anytime I've ever had any shoulder problems, whether it be basketball or from whatever reason, doing too much pushing or whatever in the gym, every time I introduce back, you know, the pull-ups, it always sorted itself out. I feel it's because it's all got to do with the lats. If your lats are strong and they have quite a lot of tension in them, it pulls the humerus down and decompresses the shoulder. I truly believe that's the case. If you do rows, you won't do the same thing because rows hit kind of more of the traps. And the force that rows do is this. They bring your shoulders back. For shoulder health, I think there needs to be a force going downwards. So if you have really strong lats, the portion of the lats that kind of pull the shoulders down, it decompresses the shoulder. For me, that's been the case. I've always recommended people to have had, you know, recurrent shoulder dislocations that I've come to through work. You know, unofficial kind of recommendations from my own self. My own opinion, this is not a medical thing. I've always said to people, for me, what's worked the most for me is doing pull-ups. Now, you don't want to wait until you're freaking, you know, snap city in the shoulder before you start doing this. If you have a severe tear or, you know, some sort of like fracture of the freaking joint, obviously you can't do pull-ups. But if you kind of feel like your joint is kind of deteriorating in some form or fashion, it's kind of like a chronic thing kind of leading up, sore and all that sort of stuff, go back to pull-ups, man, I swear. Chin-ups, I don't know. For me, this works really well. Kind of wide-handed pull-ups. Yeah, that's my opinion. So if you're ever thinking about shoulder health, just do pull-ups from our point. I think even just hanging there would be beneficial. But you know, if you're hanging there, might as well, you know, get a couple of reps in with the pull-ups. All right, let me do 120 here, and then we'll get into it. 120 for one. And all the weights are wet. Frosty morning. I had my black jumper on. The sun's out. It's just everything's wet. The grass is wet. Even the weights are wet inside, man. They're just sweating it up. Condensation or whatever it is. But yeah, getting back to pull-ups. Shoulder health is one thing. Now, if you look at the anatomy chart of the lats, you will see that they are the biggest muscle of the upper body. Humongous. You know, it goes from your shoulder all the way to your freaking hip. Some people, that actually attaches to the freaking hip. For some people. Humongous muscle group. It doesn't just do shoulder depression, it also do shoulder retraction. And I think it's probably the most important muscle when it comes to the upper body, because it wraps the whole body. When I've seen deadlifters deadlift, usually they have pretty decent lats. The person that comes to my mind is Caleb Woolham. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. Kayla is I think he's like in the 90 kilo class, somewhere in the 90s. And the guy basically pulls, I think, 400 something kilos, like it's 920 pounds or some crazy stuff like this. Incredible puller. I remember he did like a visit video with Mark Smelly Bell and the crew, and he was basically taking the people through, like, you know, his top accessories for deadlifting. And one of the accessories was kind of like a really bad form rows, like really heavy rows. So he would basically put a lot of back into it. So he was kind of like deadlift the weight off the ground, and then we kind of pull it to his belly button at the top. After that, he did some weighted pull-ups. And he did something else as well, but I can't remember. Those two things stick out in my mind the most. When you look at his physique, like, he doesn't have huge legs, he doesn't have huge arms. What he does have is humongous lats, just like noticeably large lats. And so it would be logical to think that they have something to do with his incredible back strength, pulling strength. It doesn't quite make sense to me how he gets the weight up of such heavy loads. You know, yeah, it's remarkable. It's remarkable how strong he is. But yeah, so lats I feel like are very important for back stability. And when people say they're training back in the bodybuilding world, predominantly what they're talking about is lats, right? Lats is what matters. It's the bulkiest muscle of the back. Together with traps, it basically makes up the whole of the spine. Bodybuilders don't necessarily, I'm not a bodybuilder, but I don't see a lot of them focus on the erectors. So it's a whole lot of pulling motion, horizontal pulling, vertical pulling. That's where they do most of their work. So if you hit the lats and you get developed lats, you know, you get thick lats, thick back, that's pretty much your back training. So let me hit the set before I get into another topic. All right, 140 for one. Now, when it comes to lats training, Where do I stand in terms of row versus pull-up variations? Like, what's the best move? In my opinion, I've tried rowing in the past. I have. I even tried doing the Caleb Woolham kind of row, kind of deadlift with that one that you just talked about. I tried doing that. I tried doing all sorts of rows, pendlay rows, row to the chest, row to the belly button, single arm row, all this sort of stuff. When I was going to the gym, I would do the cable rows, this sort of grip, that grip, all sorts of rows. To me, you guys might be different. For me, pull-ups come to me more naturally. I like doing pull-ups more. It decompresses the spine, which is really rare in the gym. And the one reason why I don't like doing rows and I like doing pull-ups most of all is because the rows really tax the shit out of your back. For somebody like me who has a sensitive back, if you will, I get quite exhausted when I do deadlifts, and my frequency now with the deadlift is pretty much non-existent. It's not even part of the program anymore. I'm very, very irregular with the deadlifting. Recently, because I've increased the volume of the squats to a point where I'm walking around with the leg pump every day, so I'm kind of tippy-toeing around that sort of stuff. There's always some excuse to leave the deadlifts out, but it's frustrating me. I want to get back to that as well. I think I'm going to do deadlifts tomorrow for the first time in like 2 weeks or something like that. But yeah, I'm really careful about back fatigue, lower back fatigue at that. If I do a whole bunch of rowing, my deadlifting is just completely shit. Like, I remember so many times I would get a lower back pump, like all the way kind of the sacral level, lumbar level, sacral mostly. And I would hate that feeling. It's debilitating. Like, you can't even do anything anymore. It's not a pain as like something's ripped or something's torn, but just like a extreme pump. That probably has something to do with my anterior pelvic tilt. I've basically always had an anterior pelvic tilt, like where the pelvis kind of leans forward a little bit. So, tight hip flexors, tight lower back, weaker glutes, weaker abs. That's kind of the cross syndrome of the lower body. So for me, pulling exercises takes the shit out of me because it kind of further facilitates that anterior pelvic tilt, further, hammers the lower back, further hammers the hip flexors. Hip flexors are a big part of keeping your back straight in hip hinging movements. Your hip flexors, namely the psoas and the psoas minor, they originate in the lumbar spine. They go from, I think, even T12 all the way down to L5. So it's a big ropey muscle. A lot of people don't even know about the psoas, but it goes from the lower back and inserts into the superior medial tuberosity of the femur, I think, or epicondyle, something like that. So it basically inserts into the femur. It's the number one hip flexor. Like, it actually causes the leg to come up to the hip. So when you are squatting, when you are deadlifting, that thing needs to be really working essentially to keep your back from not blowing out. So in order for this to happen with your back when you're kind of going, so this is the lower back, the moment it starts doing this, that means your psoas is too weak and it's kind of letting go. So with any sort of squatting, deadlifting movement, your psoas is working. And so when I squat and I deadlift, my psoas just tightens the hell up and my lower back starts, and so then I look like a Donald Duck walking around. So for me, when I'm doing pull-ups, the hips are chilling out. And I'm just solely hitting the upper back or the back, in terms of lats and traps and biceps and all that sort of stuff. So for me, pull-ups has always been really good. And the number one other thing, so this, I guess number two thing, is that it basically keeps your body weight in check. The reason why I say that is because big dudes can't do a lot of pull-ups. So the moment you start kind of deteriorating with the pull-ups, you have to kind of question yourself, am I getting big? So it's a really good indicator of where you are in terms of your body weight. So that's one good thing about the pull-ups. It's like a immediate feedback system of how your body is doing in terms of your overall body structure. All right, let me hit this 150 and then we'll see whether I go up in weight or we just go straight pull-ups. All right, let's go up. I just had a thought. Did I even hit the record button? I did. Jesus. 15 minutes in. Okay. This is going to be the last set, and then we're getting to pull-ups. I didn't think it was going to be this long. I'd start recording a little later in the sets if I thought I was going to get up to 160. But yeah, so pull-ups. Many different benefits. Decompression of the spine, shoulder health. You know, your body weight gets checked every single time you do it. And yeah, so I'm one of those guys that's always kind of been historically good at pull-ups. I don't know why. I was always a skinny guy. Skinny dudes tend to be really good at pull-ups because they have no legs, they have no ass, they have no weight. You know, so skinny dudes excel in pull-up motions. I've always set a goal of doing 30 pull-ups in a row, dead hang. Like I said to you, I haven't even cracked 20 yet. It's been in and out of my programming for a long time. It's kind of like I've got so many things cooking at the same time that I lose myself. Like, you know, the squat has always been number one, although I've had frustrations with them in the past. Yeah, so squatting, deadlifting, benching, pull-ups, you know, a whole lot of things going on. But essentially, I listen to my body all the time. If I feel like a joint is hurting me, I always kind of step back and be like, okay, why is it hurting? And usually the number one thing that I think about is muscle imbalances. It has to be muscle imbalances. If you haven't been bloody punched to the shoulder or cleaned up in full ball or whatever, and it's just purely from lifting, it has to be imbalances. It has to be, or unless it was like one incident where you completely fucked up your form and something went pop. That's another thing. But if it's a gradual onset of soreness after training, during training or whatever, that usually means that the joint is coming out of its proper alignment. And then you kind of have to think to yourself, how do I address that issue? Now, I'm somebody that has been stubborn in the past, but I've learned from my mistakes. If something is sore, don't be a numbskull and just push through it. Just try and work out what's going on. If you have to pay somebody, like go to a physio, try and work it out that way. I've always been kind of the mindset, I want to work it out myself. I do have, you know, a medical background, so I kind of have a head start with this. I know the anatomy, I know the general function, you know, and I've put in quite a lot of years of training, basketball and now kind of weightlifting. And so I kind of have an intuition of, you know, how the body should move and where I should look. But essentially it's a push and pull mechanism. A joint is basically in the middle of a pushing and a pulling kind of setup. So just look at the antagonist versus the agonist and work out what's stronger. And it's not necessarily like looking yourself in the mirror and be like, oh yeah, my chest is lagging, so I have to hit more chest. You know, sometimes it's beyond that. It's strength. I think strength is a better feedback mechanism than aesthetics. You could have, I guess, in a sense, a bigger muscle that's weaker than a smaller muscle. All right, so 160. See, my shoulder's already kind of starting to bother me when I'm really cranking the elbow up. When I've got the bar in my hands here and I'm really cranking, I really feel like I'm just squishing the living shit out of the shoulder. Anyway, let me hit this 160. Hopefully I can. And then we'll do pull-ups. I don't think I'll be doing 170. I don't think I'm there yet. That was ugly as shit, I guess. Felt absolutely crap. I shouldn't have gone for this weight. Not strong enough. All right, let me strip the bar, move the bar, and we'll get into some pull-ups. All right, it's all set up. So the way I'm going to do it, like I mentioned already, is do a set of 1, do a set of 2, all the way to a set of 10, hopefully. And hopefully I keep the reps nice and smooth and whatnot. I think I have to move the camera, don't I, for you guys to see how it all looks. All right, I think that should be it. All right, so let me get to work. I'm going to go wide pull-ups this time. Last time we did kind of like a medium grip. All right, that's one. Now, in terms of rest intervals, I'm not fussed. Just get the job done kind of thing. It has to be optimal recovery. You know, a lot of people talk about you know, shortening recoveries and whatnot, but you know, that could definitely be used as a, you know, as an attribute of training, as a pillar of training. But I don't know. I've never been a fond of shortening or sort of not disabling, but inhibiting the body from recovering completely. Like, don't know. Get your heart rate down, get your rest rate down, and then get back to it. I think I've always gone by that, like physiological feedback. You know, would I be, you know, bigger if I just cranked out the whole session in 20 minutes? Maybe, but I wouldn't be as strong. That's how I look at it. All right, set of 2. Now the funny thing about my squat rack is that it's old. I've had it now for 6 years, ever since I started training. Has it been longer? About 7 years. I lose track. But the uprights are not equal. So the pull-up bar is a little bit wonky at the top. I tried fixing it by adjusting the you know, the bolts and whatever, but the left side is higher. So what I'll do today is just basically alternate between facing this way and facing that way, just to kind of even out, balance it out. All right, so that was a set of 2. Let's do a set of 3 now. I heard one fella here on YouTube talk about what hits the lats better, the wide grip, the pull-ups or the chin-ups. He went on to say that doing chin-ups hits the lats more because it removes the power of the teres major. When you go wide, there's a muscle kind of like, you know, right at the top of the lat, called the teres major, and that gets really overworked with some people. You see it a lot in calisthenics, like a really upper kind of lat area. There's like this chunky muscle that gets really overdeveloped because people spend a lot more time doing pull-ups than chin-ups. So if you're lacking lower kind of like back lat area, consider doing chin-ups, I guess, according to him. For me, whenever I do chin-ups, the limiting factor for me is the biceps. So I don't know, like maybe I'll incorporate chin-ups someday, but to me, it feels more comfortable to do pull-ups and just like, I don't know, I don't like this. I feel like there's a whole lot of shoulder protraction. Just, I don't know, I don't really like how it feels. So that was a set of 3. I hope I'm counting right. I think that was a set of 3. So let's do a set of 4 now. Alright, that was 4. It'll be interesting how high I can get today. This can really drag out. It's good that I'm kind of recording this and timing it. I feel like you guys keep me honest when I record. You know, a lot of the time when the camera doesn't run, I slack off, man. I go into the garden, start watering the trees and all sorts of shit between sets, and before you know it, I've had like 10-15 minutes between sets. when the camera is rolling, I'm kind of a bit more honest about it, and you know, usually tend to have a better workout really. That was a set of 4. I'm one of those guys that, I don't know, everyone has something, but I've always kind of been pretty good in my lat region. Like my lats have always kind of been pretty good development. My chest has been lacking forever. And that's why my bench is pretty shitty. But you know, some guys have incredible like pushing power of the chest. You know, just machines. I know bench pressing is really, really popular in the States. Like it's part of your combines, NFL combines, and you know, it feels like most people, like most dudes in America, could bench pretty well. It just seems that way. For me, I've always kind of been better at pull-ups. Like I said to you, I've always been a skinny kid. So pull-ups for me have always kind of been the go-to. So I don't know, my lats have always kind of been better looking than my chest. So this kind of comes naturally, I guess, in a way. All right, let me get a set of 5 here. Hopefully I can keep the form tight still. Alright, that's 5. Hopefully I'm counting this right. I'm pretty sure it's 5 now. I don't know how many minutes am I in. Probably around 7-8 minutes. Now I'm trying to do this workout. I'm planning to do this workout at least once a week. And I have to do it obviously on days off because I can't, you know, this takes probably 30 minutes to 45 minutes to get through. I can't do it before work. Before work basically is just, you know, do my squat and then do like a 5-minute session of benching where I just sprint to the top of training max. And then I quickly get in the house, shower and go to work. So I can't do that every single day obviously, or on days where I'm working. But on my days off, I'm trying to at least do this once a week. Hit my lats, you know, mostly for shoulder health. But you know, partly also to, I do have a goal of doing 30 pull-ups eventually. It's just so hard to juggle all of this stuff. So yeah, I think last week I did it on Saturday or Sunday or something like that. I ended up being real sore for a good 3-4 days, and that's on the back of not doing this for a very long time. So I mean, you tend to get that when you're inactive in a movie for so long. All right, let's do a set of 6 now. Oof. So that's 6. They were tough. The shoulder feels okay, I guess. I do feel it kind of a little bit. The trick with training is trying to find the balance. You know, trying to work everything out. And in fact, it's all about balance really. You know, you can't neglect one portion, one plan of movement and expect to not have injury. You just have to have the ability to recognize, you know, your body, what it's trying to tell you. It's all about that really. You need to kind of recognize when things are starting to go wrong, and then you intervene, you put an exercise in, you do something and you fix it up. I remember when I first started, you know, squatting really seriously. You know, you squat, then you hit a plateau and you're wondering what's going on, and you try something else and something else and something else. I've been at this for a little while now, 5 years or so, trying to get stronger, and so each plateau teaches you something, The trick from all of this, I truly feel, is just to stay healthy. If you can stay healthy, man, even if you're plateauing for a very long time, it's better than being injured. So it's all about being smart. I've been fortunate enough to not get injured at all when it comes to powerlifting, training. I had that hip issue, like I mentioned before, but it didn't stop me from, it wasn't an injury, like a debilitating injury. My injuries were from basketball. You're doing one ankle, doing another ankle in 12 months apart, so that's what screwed me up, mostly. All right, let's get 7. I feel like this is gonna be tough now. These are, I feel like they're tougher now than a bit narrower. There's probably gonna be some form breakdown in the next few sets. So that was 7. It's actually really annoying that the bar is crooked. It's really, really annoying. I've been thinking about going to my local hardware store here, Bunnings, we call it, and just getting some, some timber, putting in 2 uprights and just a bar across outside, so I can, do pull-ups and stuff outside. I do want to incorporate more calisthenics. I mentioned in previous videos. I think calisthenics has a lot to offer when it comes to training, overall training. Especially for the upper body. There's a few things that can match it. Something about doing heaps of reps for the upper body that's just really good. And now I'm finding that even for lower body, reps is good. Just with the lower body, calisthenics is kind of, how do you load the movements? Other than doing pistol squats, which are a completely different movement than squatting because it's one leg. When I see a lot of people pistol squat, the knee buckles in hard because it's trying to balance itself, right? The center of mass shifts, and so the leg becomes kind of like way inward. It looks like it's putting the ACL, in a bit of a compromised state. So if you were to load that movement, I'll be a little bit kind of cautious about that, loading a movement where your knees don't track over your toes, where your knee kind of buckles in. We know from watching sports, I don't know whether you guys know, but I've watched a lot of sports, and usually ACL injuries is where, the knees kind of buckle inwards, change of direction, landing, knee kind of buckles inwards. And the foot is kind of grounded. So really they say in order for you to take care of your ACL, you should have knees out, which is this is where the cue comes from in squatting, where you're kind of pushing your knees out. Because, buckling of the knees inwards puts the knee joint in a really shitty position. So calisthenics, lower bodies, probably wouldn't do calisthenics for the lower body. But in terms of core and upper body, calisthenics, I think it's the shit. I've incorporated push-ups, as you guys know. I'm trying to, up my push-up count. Now I'm doing this. Whatever format I'm doing with the pull-up, I'll try and study a bit more about how to increase my pull-ups. I'll check out some programs, but essentially I really want to transition into calisthenics. Squatting for me is always going to be the heart of my training, my existence. I love it. I want to have a good squat, I want to have a good bench press, I want to have a good deadlift. But in terms of accessory work, like instead of doing bench press for a set of 30, do some push-ups, man. That's how I look at it. why not just do some push-ups? The push-ups are very, very beneficial. You're basically planking and you're doing bench press essentially. That's what that is. Bench press and a plank together is a push-up. So, and the pull-up is also very, very good. Like, you know, there's a whole lot of core activity going on. Pavel Tsatsouline says that, you know, people often overlook the role of the core when you're doing a pull-up. You know, the whole body, like you're supposed to maintain a whole body if you want to have maintain a no swinging upright motion. All right, so a set of 8. This is going to test me. Hope you guys can see me doing these pull-ups. The camera, have I put the camera correctly? I think I have. All right, set of 8. Oh man, tough. What are we in? 37 minutes in. It's gonna be a long session. It's funny because calisthenics and, you know, powerlifting are basically completely different sports, opposite spectrums. You know, with powerlifting, basically the heavier you are, the better you get, whether it's fat or muscle. A bigger dude means a stronger dude. With calisthenics, it's exactly the opposite. You want to be built like a race car. You don't want to have unnecessary tissue because you want to be light. So essentially in calisthenics, you really want to have the skinniest legs as possible, you know, so you can do, you know, have the least amount of weight hanging off you. So for a squat everyday dude to do pull-ups, it's kind of like the two extremes, because I've got this big ass, big legs, and I'm trying to do pull-ups. It's kind of like mixing two opposites, but it's good in a way, you know, because I don't have to add weight. Like I already have a strong lower body, so it's kind of like, it's kind of cool to mix them up. That's why in a way, like if you wanted a complete body workout, you just do your deadlifts, do your squats, and do calisthenics, because you're gonna be heavier from doing all the powerlifting movements. And then when you do, you know, upper body, you're gonna have plenty of weight there, and if you add the reps, voila, you've got all of a sudden a pretty good hypertrophy stimulus. Obviously the top 3 sets, kind of like the set 8, set of 8, set of 9, set of 8 again. That's the juice of the program. And then like it's a really good feeling when you're kind of going down the pyramid. It's an amazing feeling, because you know the next set you have to do one less. But when you're going up, you're like, oh shit, the last set was tough. Next one's gonna be even tougher, kind of thing, you know. So, all right, let's just grind out this next 9. They're gonna be tough, but let's just get into it. Probably last few reps are gonna be shitty. Nah, not today. So that was 6. I'm not even gonna count that. So I'll try and get 7 next set. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Screwed up the 9. So I'll go back down to 7. It's gonna be a crooked pyramid. Actually, yeah, I'll just make up the rest of the sets, the rest of the reps. So let me do 3 more reps and then go make 9. It's not ideal, but let's just get the reps in. That's a good idea. Small amount of rest. Do 3 more. 1, 2. Oh man, that's brutal. Nothing makes you feel heavier than when you do pull-ups. You really, really feel the weight of your body. Oh. Right, so the next set is going to be 8. And I'll probably have to chop that one up in several different pieces as well. I remember back in the day when I was taught about pull-ups, I went through a stage where I kind of greased the groove with the pull-ups, but in like a weird way. I was just experimenting, messing around, as you guys can probably imagine. I'm always trying to look for something, but I was basically doing, you know, max go to failure every day. I think I did it for like 7 days, and I would basically go to failure throughout the day, basically all the way. And it's really, really surprising how much work you can get done even when you go to failure on greasing the groove with pull-ups. You're basically fully recovered after 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Fully recovered. You get basically similar reps. I think I was doing like 3 or 4 sets a day. So even if you're taking things all the way to failure, you can get some sort of benefit. It's almost like when the muscle gets a pump, you know, it gets engorged with blood, and you know the whole kind of fascia tightens up, and you can't get new supply. Like it's the venous and the arterial flow is compromised because of the pump. So as soon as that pump kind of goes away and you get replenished with electrolytes and whatever else business goes on, glycogen, you're good to go. That's what it feels like to me. So right now I can't do pull-ups, not because I don't have the strength. It's because like I feel like the muscles are lacking what they need, lacking the creatine, the electrolytes, sodium, potassium, all that sort of stuff. Like there's an imbalance right now because there's a pump, which is what I think the gist of greasing the groove is. Like you're trying to work without getting a pump, because a pump brings a cascade of different things and messes with your recovery and all sorts. So I think that's where the thinking comes from. That's why these things tend to work, because you're training the central nervous system to kind of be more efficient without having the metabolic conditions upset. Whereas right now, my metabolic conditions are really upset, right? Because, you know, it's occlusion. Right now I'm occluded. So, all right, this is gonna be tough. The next 8. Trying to move the muscle about. Get some blood in there. Alright, let's get 8 now. 2 more. Let's get one at a time. Oh, that's one. One more. Fuck. Alright, that's 8. I'm happy to say the next one's gonna be 7. Oh man, I don't know how bodybuilders do it. This sort of shit every day. Fucking brutal. I think it's fair to say I've taken a bigger chunk than I can manage. I should have probably gone to 7 instead. But once you put it on your plate, you gotta finish it. So let me deal with this. I'm probably going to be really sore tomorrow. In fact, not probably, I'm going to be sore tomorrow for sure. Anything but lower body soreness. When your adductors and your quads and your hamstrings are sore, hamstrings for me are the worst, man. When my hamstrings are sore, I'm freaking miserable. When my biceps, my lats, whatever the case, traps, any of that stuff is sore, like whatever, I don't really care. Like I could get on with my day, I can move around. But when it's your legs, man, fuck. Absolutely brutal. I'm really happy that I don't get sore in my legs anymore. It's because I squat every day. If I pulled up every day, I'll probably be, you know, pretty good up in the lats as well, but hate muscle soreness, man, hate it. Misery. I don't know how bodybuilders, like, you know, a lot of bodybuilders talk about if it's not sore, you didn't hit it hard enough. So what, like the premise there is that you have to be sore all day, every day. Fuck. That's a miserable life. Powerlifting also, I don't know whether you guys have heard this, on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was interviewed there. He was interviewed in, what's the other podcast? I forget the other fella's name. You can find all this on YouTube. Just type in Powerlifting interview. Really good discussions, man. I enjoy listening to people talk about strength training. I love it. Like, you know, people that have done research and, you know, talk to a lot of smart people about the topic. But he said that in between sets, when you're doing this type of work where you kind of like hypertrophy training, you should be kind of doing this sort of stuff, like shaking your limbs around. You know, if it's upper body, you shake the upper limbs are kind of around like that. And the idea is that you kind of you recover quicker because you're assisting in the flow of nutrients in and out of cells. He talks about, like, there was one training program that he was talking about where you kind of did a squat routine where you are only working in the middle third of the squat range of motion. So you're not locking up and you're not going all the way down. So you're just kind of like, you know, tempo squatting, like, you know, in the middle portion of the squats. And the idea is just pure pump training, training kind of the slow twitch fiber cells, muscle fibers. And he said, like, once you get off the bike, don't just sit down when you do that type of training. You have to kind of get on a bike and kind of, you know, slow, kind of just moving your limbs around, or walking or something like that, where you kind of like help get all the waste products out of the tissue. So kind of in a way, I mean, you don't have to do that particular program, but there's a lesson to be learned there. And there's just move around a little bit, shake your limbs, you know, help recovery. Anyways, it's a little pointer, I guess. I don't know whether it works or not, but when I do it, I kind of feel better. I don't know. All right, let me go back to this massacre of a pull-up session. Let's do 7 now. out, 2 more. Fucking hell. Oh man. All right, one more. All right, that's 7. Thank God 6 is next. Oh Lord. Last time I did this, I did a grip kind of like this. Now I'm doing like this, and just that difference has made it a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But anyway, it's going to be an hour-long session. I do have a mean lat pump though. Oh fuck. And here I thought I was going to be able to get through this alright. Rookie mistake. My grip is starting to flare up as well a little bit. You can get away with doing shit like this when you're doing it once a week. But if you gotta do this, you know, there's a difference between squatting every day. Like a lot of people think, oh, this is the sort of shit I do for squat every day. When I tell them, no man, squat every day is easy, man. Like I never have to do this sort of workload. You know, where you kind of have to like break sets up to get through them and What made me think that I could do 80 pull-ups like that? Last week it was alright, like maybe it's just a difference in hand placement that's made it so much more difficult. Alright, let's get 6. Oh, one more. Well, I've done a whole bottle of water. I think from here on in it's going to be not too bad. I think 5 reps I can get. I say that, I probably won't. And also I thought to myself, yesterday I did the whole digging thing. And I remember when I was digging, I was getting like bicep pump in my left. You know, because I was kind of going like this and then it lift, you know. Which probably explains as well, you know, my arms had some work yesterday. Oh, Lord. Well, we've got 4 more minutes left and it's gonna be an hour-long freaking video. Jesus. Alright, let me try and get 5. It's always the last one, damn it. Ah! One more. Oh. Just for the sake of it, I'm not gonna end this video here. So that's 5, next place 4. I'm gonna finish this shit. I'm gonna finish it. And it's all gonna be on video as a reminder what a numbskull I was to think that I could do this. Bad coaching, bad coaching. Too hard of a workload. Well, one good thing that's come out of this, my shoulder feels amazing. It truly does. Like it feels like the whole shoulder girdle, all of the freaking rotator cuff muscles, it's pumped. Feel good. You won't probably tomorrow, I'll be sore as fuck tomorrow. Four. Can I get 4? Come on. Oh, yes. Oh, one clean set. Oh, fuck. So there you go. No matter what happens, I can get 4 pull-ups. That's my least amount of pull-ups I can do in the most extreme circumstances. 4. I can do 4 push-ups no matter what I did before. Freaking humbling, man. Freaking humbling. Oh. When you go to a movement that you don't train and it's like, you know, LeBron James playing volleyball or LeBron James playing soccer or something, and you can't freaking kick a ball, or you can't even, you know, spike a ball or dig a ball or whatever the terms are in volleyball. It's not that I'm an expert in LeBron James or squatting or whatever. It's just I'm a bit more advanced than pull-ups. The calisthenics community would laugh at me. Alright, can I get 3? Let's do this shit. Oh, we've ticked over an hour. Look at that. Beautiful thing. Well, let's go this way now. Almost there. 3. I truly feel like a bodybuilder right now. My arms are pumped, my lats are pumped, everything's pumped. Alright, we've got a set of 2. Let's see if I can bang these out. This is what it looks like to run somebody into the ground with a movement. This is stupid training. The recovery for today is going to be days. It's going to be like 4 or 5 days of no pull-up movements. That's suboptimal, man. For a natural athlete, you shouldn't be doing this sort of shit. But it's about lessons. It's about thinking twice about what I program in. But anyway, I'm happy to say the next rep is going to be the end of the video. I guess I'll catch you guys tomorrow for a better looking workout. Peace out. Let me get this set.